The map said there was nothing under Block 17. Officially, our city's blueprints showed a tangle of utility tunnels, a disused tram line, and bedrock. No basements, no bunkers. Certainly no four-story library carved into the dark. But the ground scan disagreed. "You're seeing that too, right?" I asked, staring at the LiDAR image on my tablet. Mara zoomed in. "Symmetry, columns, regular spacing. That's not rock, that's architecture." "Old station?" Jack suggested. "Stations don't have this many internal dividers," Mara said. "Look, rows, repeating bays. It looks like shelving." "I thought we were here to check for sinkhole risk," I said weakly. "We were urban geologists by contract, urban explorers by choice. We weren't supposed to dig deeper. We did anyway." We found the access by accident, a slab of pavement in a forgotten maintenance yard, sunken just enough to show a crack. Someone had painted over the seam decades ago. The paint had peeled, but the intention lingered. "Reinforced concrete," Jack said, knocking. "Hollow underneath." 1 core drill, 2 hours, and a lot of swearing later. The slab gave way with a sigh. Cold air rushed up, carrying the smell of damp stone and paper. "Oh, hell no," Mara whispered. "That's not possible." Our headlamps cut into the darkness below. A stone staircase spiraled down, edges worn by countless feet, handrails smooth as bone. There were no wires, no pipes, no modern fixtures. Just old stone and shadows. "We log this," I said. "We mark it. We seal it. We let actual archaeologists—" My radio crackled. "Team 7, came a voice, thin and distorted. "Reading room A is now open." I froze. "Our call sign is Team 3, I said. "And nobody topside knows what's down here yet." Mara was already descending. "You're recording this, right?" she called. "Please tell me you're recording this." We went down. The staircase ended in a grand hall our lamps couldn't fully fill. Vaulted ceilings disappeared into darkness. The smell of paper and mold was thicker here, layered with dust and something like old ink. Our beams found shelves, endless shelves. They rose from floor to ceiling in tight, regimented rows, broken by aisles just wide enough for 2 people to pass. The wood was dark and swollen, warped by centuries of moisture, but still holding. Books filled them. Not just a few forgotten volumes, every shelf packed, spines pressed together, labels faded. Leather, cloth, paper. Some bound with thread, some with metal clasps. All of them slick with condensation. "No way," Jax whispered. "We're under a modern city. How did this survive?" "Because someone wanted it to," Mara said. At the far end of the hall stood a desk. It was made of the same dark wood as the shelves, carved with geometric patterns dulled by touch. On it sat a brass lamp, tarnished but intact, and a ledger the size of a suitcase, its cover cracked. And behind the desk, mounted on the wall, hung a sign in flaking paint. "Reading room, silence, please." My radio hissed again. "Team 7, the thin voice said. "Sign in before handling materials." "Could be interference," Jax muttered. "Could be we're somewhere we shouldn't be," I added. Mara stepped behind the desk. "Relax," she said. "It's just air pressure and old wiring messing with comms. There's no power down here, no people. Just a library that shouldn't exist." She opened the ledger. The pages were thick, yellowed and dense with handwritten text. Names, dates, numbers. Each line began with a name, followed by a long column of dates and what looked like accession codes. "Let me see," I said. She angled the lamp toward it. There was no bulb, no power. The brass shade glowed anyway, a soft, steady light that pooled over the page and nowhere else. I read the first few entries. Names from a century ago. Occupations. Doctor, clerk, student. Each followed by a date, then another, then a third in a different ink. Maybe it's a borrowing record, Jack said. Borrowing what? Mara replied. There's no desk stamp, no return dates. A few pages in, I saw a more recent handwriting. The ink darker, the lines sharper. The names were unfamiliar. The dates were not. One of them was my birthday. Christiana Elena Lebrun, 14/08/1989, 02/03, 2024, 18/09, 2031. That's you, Mara said, voice suddenly small. That's you, full name, first and middle included. Anyone could find that online, Jack said quickly. It's a prank, an elaborate, dust-covered prank. There's nothing online about my middle name, I said. I never use it. Ever. My eyes slid to the third date. 18 September, I whispered. 2031. Probably just random numbers, Jack said, but he didn't sound convinced. Keep going, Mara said hoarsely. We flipped further. Halfway through the ledger, the pages stopped aging. They were crisp, white, the ink fresh enough to smudge. Many lines were empty. Some were not. Mara Isabel Santos, 07/11/1990, 03/03/2024, 18/09/2031, Jacob Xander Hayes, 22/05/1992, 03/03/2024, 18/09/2031. The penmanship was neat, consistent. I realized with a slow chill that the second date on each line, 03/03/2024, was today. What's the third date? Mara asked, though we all knew. End of borrowing, the radio wheezed suddenly, picking up a voice we hadn't heard before. Not one of ours. Thin. Patient. Please return all materials by the final date. Jack slammed the book shut. Dust puffed up, glittering in our beams. All right, he said. We're done. We seal this. We forget it. Something rustled in the shelves, very softly, like pages turning themselves. Probably rats, I said, though I hadn't seen any droppings or gnaw marks, no nests, nothing living. Mara raised her lamp hand. Point your lights down there, she said. At the nearest shelf, one book jutted out slightly from its neighbors. Its spine was blank, its cover the color of old bone. As we watched, it slid a few centimeters farther out. Air pressure, Jax whispered. Air pressure doesn't do that, Mara replied. She stepped toward it. Mara, don't, I said. Her hand closed on the spine. The radio screeched. Silence, the thin voice said. This is a quiet area. The sound cut like a physical blow. My ears rang with the echo of it. Mara froze. Okay, she said too brightly. New plan. We leave now. All in favor? We backed toward the stair. The lamp on the desk dimmed. As our lights swept the hall one last time, I realized something had changed. The shelves nearest the desk were no longer blank-spined. Neat white labels now clung to several of them, text so new it seemed to glow. We weren't close enough to read them. We didn't want to be. We fled up the stairs. At street level, daylight felt like fiction. Cars passed. People walked dogs. A busker played guitar at the corner. We reported a void under Block 17 with unstable historical masonry and recommended immediate reinforcement, no excavation. The city, true to form, filed the report and did nothing. 3 months later, an email arrived in my inbox from a sender labeled Archives. No address, no metadata. The subject line was blank. The body contained a single line. Reminder. Materials due. 18/09/2031. No attachments, no links. My colleagues got the same email. We don't talk about the underground library anymore. We still work together. We still walk the city, measuring, logging, planning. But sometimes, in the quiet parts of the night shift, I catch Mara staring at manholes a little too long. I hear Jax flinch when pages turn in an office down the hall. Books have started to show up in odd places. On my desk, on my kitchen table, on the back seat of my car. Always the same kind. Plain covers, no titles, pages blank when I first open them. If I look away and look back quickly, there's writing. Not long passages, just a single line, in neat, patient hand. Do not be overdue. The worst part isn't that the underground library knows my full name. It's that, sometimes, when I'm almost asleep, I hear chairs shifting below the city, the whisper of turned pages, and the low, satisfied rustle of a ledger closing on a date that hasn't come yet. Not up here, anyway. You don't feel a city's weight until you go under it. Up top, people think skyscrapers and traffic and neon signs mean modern. Down below, the stone remembers every foundation and tunnel and forgotten level built, abandoned, and built over again. I catalog those layers for a living. On paper, I'm a civil engineer. My team checks old infrastructure, plans new subway lines, makes sure digging a parking garage won't collapse a century-old sewer. Under the table, sometimes the city pays us to investigate rumors. This one started with a sinkhole that ate half a street in Old Town. We dropped a camera down the fresh wound. It swung in a hollow, scraping brick. 10 meters down, it hit an actual floor, smooth, dark, reflective. Could be an old cistern, my intern said. The camera tilted. In the circle of its lamp, light glinted off glass. Straight lines resolved. Shadows became uprights. Rows. Those are shelves, I said. We found a room. Maybe a records archive. That far down? The city rep asked. Below the sewer level? That doesn't make sense. Neither did the faint word painted on the far wall in letters big enough to see from our little feed. Stacks C. We went down on ropes. The air was cool, dry, and utterly still. My boots hit the floor with a slap. Not concrete. Tile. Black and white tiles in a checkered pattern, worn almost smooth. Water had lapped at them once, but not for a long time. Our headlamps carved out a boxy space 4 stories high. Metal shelving units rose in perfect grids, some freestanding, some bolted to pillars. Catwalks lined the upper levels, their rails rusted. Books, files, and boxes filled every reachable surface. The city rep, Calhoun, whistled. I had no idea we had this, he said. That's because you don't, my intern muttered. At least, not in any of the plans. We moved cautiously down the nearest aisle. The shelves here held files in hanging folders, labels peeling, tax, inspection, permits. Decades of municipal bureaucracy, moldering in the dark. Okay, this makes sense, Calhoun said, visibly relieved. Some forgotten records depot. Maybe pre-digital consolidation. We can inventory it, decide what to keep, what to shred. My lamp slid across a row of battered cardboard boxes on the bottom shelf. The hand-lettered labels didn't say permits or tax. They said names. H. I nudged one with my boot. Open it, Calhoun said. You open it, I replied. He rolled his eyes, crouched, and popped the lid. Inside, bundled in neat stacks, were index cards. Old-fashioned, off-white cards, each in a plastic sleeve. A black typewritten name at the top. Lines of faded ink below. Calhoun plucked one out. Harper Jonathan Elias, he read. Address, date of birth, profession. His voice faded. What? I asked. He swallowed. Date of death, he said. Typed. And it's a week from now. The card trembled in his hand. My intern took it. No way, she said. This has to be some kind of hypothetical model, or a sick joke. It's my neighbor, Calhoun whispered. He lives 2 floors above me. I just saw him yesterday. He brought me soup last month when I was sick. His birthday and address are right. We went through more boxes. Names we recognized. Some with death dates long past, matched to news stories we half remembered. Some with empty death fields, some with dates that hadn't come yet. Each card had one thing in common. A section at the bottom marked Location, followed by a code like STKC12034. Stack C, row 12, shelf 34, my intern said. They're cross-referencing where each card is stored. Why would you index people like books? I asked. The overhead lights flickered. We all looked up. There were no fixtures, just darkness above the catwalks. The glow came from nowhere. My radio crackled. "Stacks below," said a dry, mechanical voice. "Please reshelve all materials after use." "We didn't touch anything," I said, though I was suddenly glad I hadn't picked up a card myself. We retreated toward the rope. As we passed the end of the aisle, my lamp caught a sign stenciled on the wall. "Reading room." Calhoun grabbed my sleeve. "We're not going deeper," he said. "I know," I replied. We went deeper. The reading room door was steel, heavy, and propped open with a brick. That, somehow, bothered me more than if it had been sealed. Inside, tables sat in neat rows, chairs pushed in as if waiting for a class. A long counter at the front held old date stamps, an ink pad dried to leather, and a brass plate reading "Reference Only." No loans. Behind the counter, a wall of narrow drawers reached to the ceiling. Card catalog. My intern eased one open. "Don't," Calhoun whispered. She froze. "Why are you whispering?" I hissed. "I don't know," he said. "Feels wrong not to." The drawer was full of cards like the ones in the boxes. But these had only one line, name, and one word at the bottom: overdue or returned. Most said returned. A few said overdue, stamped in red. My lamp caught one half-pulled card like it had been left by someone interrupted. "Calhoun, Michael Reese. Overdue." "Who put—" he began. The radio hissed. "Stacks below," the dry voice said. "Reminder, unreturned materials will be collected." Behind the counter, a chair creaked. There was no one in it. The air shifted, carrying the faint smell of old paper and something metallic, like blood on coins. Our rope, somewhere back in the stacks, felt suddenly very far away. "We leave," I said. "Now." On the way out, we avoided looking at the boxes. At the rope, I went up first. Halfway, my radio crackled again. "Bra, Elise, due. Oct 17, 18, 09, 2031. My own name crushed between static. "Turn it off," I gasped, fumbling for the switch. It wouldn't respond. A cold hand seemed to close around my ankle. Of course, there was nothing there when I looked. We made it to the surface. The sinkhole was ringed with barricades and curious onlookers. Sirens wailed distantly. The city, oblivious, went about its business. "We concrete it," Calhoun said. "Today, now. Fill it. Forget it." He made the calls. They poured tons of cement into the hole. I watched it swallow the rope, the ladder, the darkness. At home, I tried to sleep. My phone buzzed. "Unknown number," the screen said. I answered on reflex. There was no greeting, no breathing, just the flick of cards in a wooden drawer. Then the dry voice, closer now. "Stacks below. Reminder. Materials are due on the listed date, regardless of surface conditions." The call dropped. The next day, my mailbox contained a single index card in a plastic sleeve. Elise Gabriela Barros Daube. Address, profession. A blank line for date of death. Under location, someone had written in neat ink. Stack C, row 7, shelf 03. At the bottom, stamped in red. On hold. I don't go underground anymore. But sometimes when the subway brakes squeal a little too long between stations, or an elevator pauses just shy of my floor, I feel like somewhere below, in the heavy quiet, a drawer has opened, and someone is checking my card out. The first time I saw the book, it was blank. We were surveying a flooded sub-basement under the old courthouse, looking for structural weaknesses. Most of it was a waist-deep wading pool of rust and slime. At the far end, up a short flight of stairs, was a door that shouldn't have existed. "Plans say bare wall," my partner Noor said, tapping her tablet. "Plans also say this basement doesn't extend this far," I replied. The door opened onto dry air. We stepped into a narrow corridor lined with bricks glazed in dark green, slick with age. Someone had once cared about aesthetics down here. The corridor turned again, then opened into a long, low room. My first thought was subway car. The proportions were right. Narrow, with a ceiling just high enough to stand, walls slightly curved. Except instead of seats, both sides were lined with shelves. The shelves held books, not city files, not binders. Books. Some had titles in languages I recognized. Others bore glyphs that danced out of comprehension if I looked at them too long. The air smelled like paper, leather, and a faint hint of mildew. At the far end, a small table sat under a hanging lamp. And on that table lay a single large volume bound in dark, cracked leather. It was open, empty. "Okay, this is new," Noor said. "Secret Judge's Library?" I offered. "Some weird legal archive no one updated?" "Archivists would kill before letting this flood," she said. "Whatever this is, it's not official." I stepped closer to the table. The book's pages were thick and slightly rough, like handmade paper. No lines, no watermark, no writing. Just emptiness, waiting. Something about it made my teeth itch. Noor's radio crackled. "Field team," came the coordinator's voice. "You're dropping off GPS. Status?" "We've got extra rooms," Noor said carefully. "We'll send photos." She lifted her phone to snap a shot of the blank book. The moment her screen flashed, words appeared on the paper. One line in dark, wet ink. "Please do not use flash photography." We both stepped back. "That didn't," Noor began. "We didn't." The ink gleamed, then dulled, as if drying. I reached out slowly. "Don't touch it," Noor hissed. "I'm not going to," I lied. My fingertips brushed the margin. A tiny electric shock jumped up my arm, sharp and cold. The hairs on my neck stood up. The words on the page blurred. New lines crawled out under the first, writing themselves in a tight, neat hand. "This reading car is currently reserved for Field Team, Courthouse Survey, 2 patrons. Please return all future volumes before closing." "Future volumes," I whispered. "Nope," Noor said. "Nope, we're leaving now." She turned toward the corridor. It was gone. Where the doorway had been was solid brick, glazed dark green, cool under my palm. "There was a door," she said. "There was a door, right?" The lamp over the table brightened a notch. On the far wall between the shelves, a panel we'd taken for decorative molding slid aside. Beyond it, another room glowed faintly. More shelves, more books. "You're seeing this, right?" I asked. "Unfortunately," Noor replied. The book on the table flipped its own page. The sound was soft, like a sigh. On the new page, fresh ink spelled out, "Route adjusted. Please proceed to the next car." Noor's radio spat static. "Do you copy?" our coordinator asked. "You're not showing on the internal tracker. Your signal's looping." "We're in some sort of sub-basement archive," Noor said. "Coordinates are weird. We'll find another way out." "Be advised," the coordinator said slowly. "There is no sub-basement beneath that section. Just bedrock." The radio whined and cut off. We stood in the narrow car, surrounded by books that had not seen light in decades, if ever, reading a book that was writing back. No good options. "Okay," I said. "We move forward, see if there's another exit. We don't touch anything else." We stepped through the panel. The next room was nearly identical. Same proportions, same shelves, different books. These were all the same size and color, spines marked with numbers instead of titles. They hummed faintly, just below hearing. In the middle of the floor, another table, another lamp, another open book. This one wasn't blank. Its left-hand page showed a map of the city. Not as it was now, but as it had been 50 years ago. Fewer highways, different building footprints. Little red dots flickered at various intersections. The right-hand page contained a list: dates, times, street names, short descriptions. I scanned a random entry. 1209, 1983, 1742, King and 4th, pedestrian struck by streetcar. I flipped the page. The book resisted, heavier than it should be. The next spread showed a map of the city as it looked 10 years ago. Different red dots, different list. Accidents, fires, collapses, people who had died suddenly in public places. "This is a log," Noor said quietly, "of every major incident." "Why hide it down here?" I asked. "Maybe it's not for us," she said. I flipped again. The map updated. Now it matched the city I walked every day. The dots were fewer, brighter. Some pulsed. The list on the facing page contained dates I remembered from the news. A tunnel fire, a crane collapse, a sudden sinkhole. At the bottom, one last entry had no description. Only a date. Next week. And a location. Courthouse, sub-basement, field team. "Absolutely not," Noor said. She slammed the book shut. The shelves rustled, not the sound of paper shifting randomly. A wave, moving from one end of the room to the other, like a breeze traveling along spines. "We're going back," she said. "We came from that way, we'll find—" The passage behind us was solid wall again. The lamp brightened. The book on the table shivered, then opened itself to a new blank page. Ink bloomed. Adjusting schedule. The words faded. New lines formed. "Emergency edit in progress. Please remain seated." "We're standing," I said, because my brain had decided sarcasm was the last defense. Pages began to flip on the shelves. Here and there, a book slid out, covers opening, text writhing like live things, lines rearranged, sentences erased themselves. Maps redrew streets. On the table, the page filled with dense, flowing script. I caught fragments as they formed. Minor incident relocated. Fatality reassigned to alternate intersection. Witness vectors adjusted. "This is rewriting things," Noor said, voice thin. "It's editing the city." The lamp dimmed, brightened, dimmed again. Finally, the pen, whatever invisible nib was writing, stopped. At the bottom of the page, in larger letters, "Updated edition successful." New entry added, "Courthouse, sub-basement. 2 survivors, 1726, deviation approved." My ears rang. "Survivors," Noor repeated. "It expected us to die here. It changed that." The book remained still. The door at the far end of the car slid open. Beyond it, a concrete stairwell waited, lit by a single flickering fluorescent tube. No green tiles, no shelves, just municipal gray. We didn't question it. We ran. We emerged 2 floors above where we should have, in a corridor we knew. The coordinator met us, face pale. "What happened?" she asked. "You were gone for 5 hours." "It's been 40 minutes, Noor said. The wall clock disagreed. We filed the sub-basement as inaccessible, structurally unsound, recommended ceiling. Calhoun from stacks below probably would have approved. They poured new walls down there, solid concrete, doesn't matter. Last week, I found a book on my kitchen table. I hadn't brought it in. Dark leather, cracked. No title. Inside, the first pages held a map of the city as it is now. The last page was blank, until I blinked. Then, in neat dark ink, my name appeared. Smaller text sprouted beneath it. "Minor incident. Bus near miss. Avoided. Deviation logged. The line faded as I watched. New words formed. Further unauthorized deviations will be corrected. I closed the book. I didn't throw it away. If the city has an editor, I want to know when it's revising me out. Sometimes when I walk past the courthouse and feel the pavement shiver under my feet, I imagine stacks of volumes far below, pages turning themselves, text writhing, accidents shifting dates. And somewhere, in one particular book, a line holding stubbornly where it says, two survivors.